Hi, this is Todd, Not 10 Yacht Sales. Today we're going to do a YouTube video on the status of the used boat market. This is going to be geared primarily to my sellers, but it's going to be open to the general public. And again, these are just my opinions as to what's going on and the trends that we're seeing. The views are mine and not that of Not 10 Yacht Sales. So let's dive into it. So as you can see by the ground around me, that it's fall here in Maryland, and we've come through a good selling season. I've had a good year. I'm very, very blessed and thankful for all the business that I got. I'm thankful for my customers, both those that trusted me to list their boats and those that trusted me to sell them a boat. But let's kind of look at what we're seeing. We are starting to see a buildup of inventory. That buildup of inventory is across the board, whether it be express boats, motor yachts, outboard powered center consoles, walkarounds. It is literally all the inventory. We haven't seen a lot in the way of price erosion, where we have sellers who are dropping their pricing to reflect the buildup in that inventory. What we're seeing on the buyer's side is we got an election year, a buildup of inventory, general economic malaise, I'll say, and we're seeing people buying boats, but there's not that same sense of urgency that we had, 12 months ago. And as a result, if you're a seller of a boat in this market, well, what do? There's a few things that you can do to take those buyers that are on the sidelines, necessarily not making a decision. Well, what would make them make that decision? Well, they have to see the opportunity, and that opportunity is a combination of not only what the boat is, but its condition, its options, and its pricing. And if you can hit all three of those as far as having the right boat with the right equipment in the right condition at the right price, guess what? It'll sell. If it's not all of those, it's going to be tough sledding. So let's look at what we can do to improve our chances. So what do we do to improve our opportunities and our chances to sell the boat? We get all the personal effects that are meaningless to a buyer. Pool noodles, floats, dog dishes, excess food, excess clothing. The boat doesn't need to be void of personal effects, but it needs to be clean where somebody can envision themselves actually using the boat. Think of high dollar real estate. In this market, an $850,000 house, $1 million house is not going to have laundry baskets hanging around, or grass that needs to be cut, or it's going to be in show condition. It's going to be, in a lot of times, staged. That's the way your boat needs to be. Even going into winter mode, we need to be cognizant. I can't even speak. Aware. I will use that. Aware of how a buyer's going to react when they get on board. You only have one chance to make a first impression. So think of that when you're putting the boat away for the winter. You want to have the boat still kind of staged. It can be in winter mode. We're dealing with boaters. It doesn't have to be perfect over the winter, but still think about having that boat in a position where if the Joneses got on board in the middle of December, that they can go, wow, this is a nice boat and I can see myself in it. Fix anything that is wrong. If the windlass doesn't work, fix the damn windlass. It's gonna have to get fixed sooner or later. You might as well do it. Biggest thing we get, which is when we hear it as brokers, we kind of cringe, is maintenance records. Every single buyer wants to know whether the boat they're buying has been maintained. And when you say, I don't have any maintenance records, or I do it myself and I don't have any logs, well, how are we as brokers going to be able to convey to a potential buyer that this boat's been loved and enjoyed and isn't going to break down on them the first time they take it out? Well, the only thing we can do is give them some assurances that you've taken care of the boat. And if we can't do that, that means it hasn't been taken care of in the eyes of the buyer. So repair anything that's major, have maintenance records, and get the boat in a position to be sold. I'm going to stop here because then it comes to the next point. Pricing. This is where we are going to see some dramatic changes over the course of the next few months. During COVID, we saw something that I haven't seen in my excess of 20 years of doing this, and we saw the values of boats go up. It's counterintuitive. You're dealing with a depreciating item, and that asset basically shouldn't go up in value. But we saw a huge increase in demand, which increased pricing, which led to scarcity, which increased pricing even more. Well, that ship has sailed, and we are now in a pre-COVID market, which was a good market. I did very well pre-COVID, and I anticipate that I'll continue to do well. But to price your boat, you have to look at where that boat was prior to 2020. And if a lot of times when you go back to these production boats that may have been built from 2000, 2010, those pre-COVID prices are probably where your boat should be priced right now. And that's not even going into or taking into consideration, okay, you had a boat that, let's say it's a Sea Ray 340, I'll throw that out. A Sea Ray 340 in 2018, 2019 was roughly a $80,000, $90,000 boat. Well, so going into COVID, those became very scarce. The prices of those boats jumped to north of $100,000 and sometimes $125,000. Okay, well, that was great for those sellers, but if the true market of that boat now is $80,000, well, then you've got to adjust accordingly. You can't look at what that boat sold for in 2020, 2021, 2, 3. You have to look at where the market is now, and it's probably gone back down to that pre-COVID number. And in some cases, it might be a little worse. And that's what you have to look at. You can't look at where it sold in 2022, 2023, or even in the beginning of 2024, because things changed. And you're going to have to change with it if you're looking at selling. I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but there's been a correction, and you need to account for it. I hope that didn't sound pessimistic, because I'm not pessimistic at all. I'm a very optimistic person. I'm very thankful, again, for the amount of business and what this industry has given me over the course of the past 22 years. But I wanted to have a way of conveying what I think is happening, and that's the reason for this video. That being said, boating is not going away. There are going to be buyers. There are buyers now. There's going to be buyers in December, January, February, and the spring of 2025. The key is to look at this as, I'll use two analogies. One analogy is a beauty contest. You know, you don't want to make it, you don't want to think of it that way, but that's what it is. And your boat's a contestant, and it's gotta be, it's gotta hit all the marks. It's gotta be clean, priced right, the sexiest boat it can be, or it's not gonna sell. The second thing I'll say is that it's kind of like produce. When you're at the grocery store and you're looking at the vine ripe tomatoes, you're going to look for the one that's the nicest looking one of the bunch. You're not going to grab the one that's bruised or wrinkly. You're going to grab the nice one. And that's the way you got to look at it with the boats. With your boat, you gotta put it in its best foot forward, and make it so the Smiths or the Joneses go, if I don't buy that boat, somebody else will. And that's when you're going to get the offer. So, and that's the key. Get that offer, negotiate out the best you can, and make sure your boat's in a position where it can be surveyed and sea trialed to a successful end and gets to closing. That's the only reason why the guys at Knot 10 and gals at Knot 10 come in every day. We don't get paid unless your boat, which we've listed on Yacht World, Boat Trader, Boats.com, YouTube in the case of my listings. When that boat goes to the settlement table, we get paid. Until then, this is all for naught. So I hope you found this YouTube video informative. I'm going to try and do these as the ideas hit. And thanks again for watching. I encourage your comments. Keep them clean. And as I always say, safe boating.